Hello, bonjour, namaste, ni hao, and ohio, everybody. What is going on? It is Gale here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel once again for another Danmachi video. And today, we are here to break down Ryu's double level up. Of course, one of the main things to come out of episode 12 of season 5, of course. It is something that a lot of people are probably a little bit curious about on how exactly it works, why she was able to achieve it, and why potentially the likes of Bell and Eyes never really considered the double level up or never achieved the double level up. We're going to break that down in this video. We're also going to talk about how Astrea was able to do Ryu's double level up. Of course, it's something that we saw in the anime in the form of flashback sequences, but we never really got an explanation on how she did it and how exactly it worked. And furthermore, on top of all of that, we have to also acknowledge that this is something that is going to be actually spoilers for even English light novel readers, because of course, this section of Astrea meeting Ryu and all of that jazz that we saw in the anime, the flashback sequences, that's actually something that wasn't in volume 18 of Danmachi's main series and what's being adapted currently in season 5. That's a separate light novel entirely. That's not even released in English yet. That's coming out in April. Episode Ryu Volume 2 of the Familiar Chronicles series. Yeah, that's coming out in April. So that is something that's going to be a little bit spoilery for maybe you guys watching this video. So I'm going to try and keep it as vague as possible. Of course, if you guys want me to do a proper dissection of it in a separate video, feel free to let me know. But I'm going to keep it as vague as possible while trying to address the main points of the double level up in this video. Along with that, I want to talk about my thoughts on this entire double level up situation. Of course, now that we've had the original light novel, episode Ryu Volume 2, and of course the anime come out, I want to give you guys my thoughts on it, on whether or not it makes sense, you know, after basically 2 years of processing it effectively since Volume 18 came out. And to give you guys an indication on, of course, what I feel. Now, furthermore, what I wanted to see in the comment section of this video is what you guys think. Because, of course, when it first came out in the light novels, right? When Ryu's double level up was first shown off in Volume 18 back in 2023 or 2022. I can't remember. I think it was 2023. Yeah, early 2023. A lot of people did not like it. A lot of people did not like it at all. Everybody called Memoria has-been, didn't know what he was doing and stuff like that. And it's quite interesting to see that when it comes to the anime side of things, and to be honest, a little bit on the English release as well, I feel like a lot of people are more accommodating for it, and a lot more people are okay with it and are accepting of it. So it's quite interesting to see the differences between the communities, obviously internally as well, between the anime only side and the light novel readers only side as well. So I want to see what you guys have to say. Of course, maybe your minds have changed 2 years on. Of course, the light novel readers, maybe you guys are more understanding about it and stuff. Let me know in the comments. I'm quite curious to see what you guys have to say down below. Now, let's kick off this discussion by first and foremost talking about how Ryu was able to achieve the double level up. Now, before we get into the breakdown of how Ryu was able to achieve level 6, we're gonna break down her stats as a level 4. The reason why I say this is because it's super important to identify and realize that Ryu was already on the upper echelons of a level 4 5 years ago. This is mentioned and backed up by the fact that Hermes in both the light novel and the anime said that, oh, even before that, you know, she even leveled up, and even 5 years ago, before the Astrea Familia was completely decimated, she was already considered as a high level 4 adventurer. And of course, subsequently with the events of, well, first and foremost, the Astrea Familia decimation, yes, it was heavily one-sided, and the Astrea Familia absolutely got torn apart and torn to shreds by the Juggernaut. She was a part of it, and she did survive the encounter, which meant that she probably got some stats from that whole situation. But along with that, she also took down and absolutely destroyed the Rudra Familia single-handedly. Mind you, this is very important that she did it completely by herself. She took down an entire Familia, and she also took down other members of Evilis as well, single-handedly. Again, remember, single-handedly, she took down an entire Familia and some extra people along with it. Subsequently, after that as well, she obviously was still going into the dungeon regularly, participating in, you know, effectively a way to keep herself fresh combat-wise, of course, right? She regularly went into the dungeon She kept training, and then furthermore, after of course Belle's arrival into Orario, she was partaking in events such as taking on the Goliath, obviously going into a war games against Apollo Familia, dealing with the Xenoses, and of course the Deep Floors arc, obviously taking on the Juggernaut as well alongside Belle, and dealing with, you know, everything that was there in floor 37 and below. So we know that Ryu probably must be super high statted up when it comes to obviously being a level 4 adventurer. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, at one point Omori did even mention in a book that Ryu's combat ability was higher than that of the level 4 Ana Kitty. Now, level 4 Ana Kitty at the time was considered as one of the strongest, if not the best level 4 adventurer in Orario. So the fact that Ryu obviously was considered to be even stronger than Ana Kitty says a lot. Now, the reason why Ryu wasn't considered as the strongest level 4 adventurer in Orario is because, well, technically, according to, you know, the guild and everybody, Galewind was effectively either in exile, self-imposed exile, or dead, basically, right? So that's the reason why Ana Kitty was considered the best level 4 adventure. But in reality, due to Ryu's experiences, the combat ability that she had, and everything to go with it, she was considered the strongest level 4 adventurer unofficially. Now, keep that in mind, right? Keep that in mind is that she was already a high level 4. So it was very possible that with one feat alone, she would have reached level 5. Now, I do believe that had, you know, the Astray Familia survived the encounter and Ryu was able to take down the Juggernaut at the time, we would have probably seen a level 5 Ryu immediately after that. No doubt about it. And this is sort of backed up, and actually is backed up, I should say, more so, by what we saw in the anime, and also just generally by what we know of the demolition and annihilation of the Rudra Familia. If you go back into episode 12 of season 5 and you look at the episode in its entirety, and when Hermes is explaining how Ryu was able to achieve level 6 by clearing a lot of feats and stuff, one of the most important things we see is her taking on the Rudra Familia and defeating Juggernaut. These are two significant feats, and that is what Ryu needed the most, was the feats. A lot of people don't realize that when characters are getting leveled up, of course the stats do matter to an extent. What matters more is the achievements and the feats that they achieve at their level. And well, clearly to the Falna of Ryu, it was evident and more than enough for Ryu to get a double level up by doing those two things. One, single-handedly destroying an entire familia, and number two, defeating the Juggernaut. Those two things were enough to classify Ryu enough for a potential double level up. One for one level up and one for the other level up, right? Now, a lot of people will say, well, Gale, surely Belle and Eyes have probably done enough as well to, you know, get a double level up as well, clearly, right? Not exactly. Now, I'll explain Belle first, because I think Belle is the one that I think a lot of people will point towards as to how much he's achieved in the last, 6 months of his adventuring, and between his level ups, he's gone and done a lot, right? So let's take a look at Belle's level ups first and foremost. So from level 1 to level 2, we obviously know that it was due to the fight against the Minotaur, right? That is more than fine. That was one feat that he achieved very well. So level 1 to level 2, Minotaur. Level 2 to 3, a lot of people are arguing about the fact that the Goliath and the Apollo Familia shenanigans should have meant he got to level 3. Or level 4 even, I should say, sorry, specifically, because the Goliath is one level up and the Apollo Familia is the second level up. Not exactly, because the Goliath fight, you have to remember that everybody partook in that fight. Everybody and their mother was in that fight and helping Belle. That unfortunately does not help his feats at all. There's a reason why feats are either mainly solo attempts or duo attempts. It's why we saw when Eyes leveled up from level 5 to level 6, she wanted to go and take on the Eudeus by herself. So that is something to keep in mind is that unfortunately, Bell's fight against the Goliath helped him massively stat-wise, not necessarily when it comes to being a feat necessarily. Unfortunately, that does not count. And so the level 2 to level 3 is exclusively the Apollo fight. Level 3 to level 4, a lot of people are pointing out, of course, the fight against Aisha, Frin, and Astraeus, right? Aisha and Frin, he got a lot of help, thanks to, of course, good old Haruhime with the level boost and everything, right? The Astraeus one is where his level up came from. And of course, that was also a 1v1. And although he pretty much got absolutely one-sided, lopsided defeat, the fact that he survived against a level 7 monster as a level 3 is significant. And so that counts as a feat in itself. So there is your feat for level 3 to level 4 for Bell. Now, level 4 to 5, a lot of people are saying Juggernaut and Hayden. We know that he was able to level up to level 5 already thanks to the Juggernaut and floor 37 shenanigans. Already we knew that surviving that and also defeating the Juggernaut was enough for Bell to level up to level 5. Hestia said it at the start of the season. We saw it, right? We saw Hestia say that at the start of the season. A lot of people are also adding that Hayden taking on Bell and training Bell should have also counted as a level up. The reason why I don't say that's a level up is because it's training. It's training. Yes, it's near death basically. And you could argue also the fact that it was one-sided as well, which kind of goes also against the whole feat part. But it was training, so it doesn't really count, unfortunately. I know a lot of people will say like, but Gale, he was nearly killing the guy, man. The Bell was going to near death. And I know, I get it. But it's training at the end of the day. It is training. According to the whole thing, it's training. So the Falna also, I assume, doesn't count it as a feat necessarily to survive a training session necessarily, right? So I think that is a big reason as to why Bell never got the double level up, first and foremost. So that's Bell out of the way. That's the reason why Bell probably never got the double level up. It's not impossible for him to still get it in the near future, but I don't see it happening, at least with any of the previous level ups, as to, you know, it should have happened before. No, I don't think it should have happened before because it doesn't make sense for it to have happened before. Now we move on to Eyes and the rest of Aurario by extension. The reason why a double level up is unlikely to happen for any other character is purely because of the fact that it is very unlikely for a familiar to send their individual to very risky situations without actually giving them any sort of update. Now let me explain. Ryu went 5 years without a status update. 5 years. It is unlikely for an adventure to go even 2 days without a status update. You have to remember that a familiar god or goddess isn't going to, you know, send their adventurers into the dungeon without getting regular status updates, because the more you send them into the dungeon without a status update, the higher the risk of them dying because they didn't get their status boosted. Imagine if Bell beats the Minotaur and then Hestia says, okay, maybe we can kind of finagle this in some way, shape or form and, you know, give him another opportunity to send him into the dungeon, get his stats even higher and then go for the level up. That would have been so risky by Hestia because he's only level 1, and yes, while we know Bell's status is ridiculously high and he gets a lot of stats, so it kind of saves him in a way, but imagine if it was like, okay, he's at 400 strength, intelligence, agility, so on and so forth, 400 across the board. Thanks to the Minotaur fight, let's say he would have gotten another 300 stat points, let's say for example. Imagine if Hestia said, no, I don't want to update that and I want to send him into the dungeon again without, you know, him getting that status boost. The risk of him dying is as high as it was before. But if he were to get the status update, he'd be even safer and even stronger and more capable of handling the dungeon. And that's the reason why familiars wouldn't risk sending their adventurers without a status update. It's just way too risky. And the likelihood of them achieving a feat after a status update goes down because you need to do even crazier things to kind of satisfy the conditions of a feat. As Ryu said at the very beginning in season 1, an adventurer has to adventure in order to get the level up, and making it easier is going to make it a little bit more challenging to get the feat. So that is the problem. So it's a bit of a contradictory thing in that sense. The higher the stats, or the higher the stats and higher the level, means the riskier and the more crazier your feat has to be, kind of thing, right? So that is the big problem of, you know, getting the status update means, yes, you will survive the dungeon more, but you also have to go and do a crazier thing in order to get the level up. But vice versa, if your status update is not happening and your status is low, going out and doing something crazy would probably be something a lot less scarier than what it would be at a higher level, potentially, if you get what I mean. So it's quite interesting in that sense. So that's the reason why I feel like Ryu's double level up, in my opinion, and I agree with Omori in that he's done it the right way. It makes sense because Ryu has gone 5 years without a status update. She's done absolutely insane batshit stuff, of course, right? In the meantime, taking on the Rudra Familia and Evilus by herself, you know, obviously partaking in all the stuff in between, but also primarily the stuff in floor 37, and also dealing with the Juggernaut and surviving that encounter and defeating it as well. It's not something you would expect a level 4 adventurer to do by herself, or at least with one more person. It's not something you'd see. So it's the reason why it works so well, in my opinion, that Ryu was able to get the double level up. And I think it makes, if there's any adventurer that it makes sense for, it is Ryu right now. At least this form of Ryu, it makes absolutely a lot of sense. Now, of course, if Ryu were to do it again and in a much shorter period of time, no, it wouldn't make sense. But because of the time duration, because of what she's achieved in said time duration, 5 years and doing all of those shenanigans, definitely I think counts for something. That is my opinion on that, and that is why I think that, you know, when you look at it and you look deep into that whole situation with Ryu and the way it worked, it makes sense. It absolutely makes a lot of sense. Now let's move on to Estrella getting Ryu to level 6. Like I mentioned, that this section of the video is technically not available in English in terms of course, the story behind it and the context behind it is only available in Japanese. I am not going to dive into spoilers and context regarding, of course, how Ryu exactly did everything and how Ryu met Estrella and everything to do with that. That is going to be left for a separate video, and in fact, of course, when the light novel comes out in English, I will be there to review it, and I will obviously talk about it then. But in this video, I want to talk a little bit, just a teeny tiny bit, on how Ryu was able to get to level 6 and how Estrella executed the level 4 to level 6 process. Now, the thing is, right, a lot of people initially thought when Volume 18 first came out, and subsequently until we got, of course, episode Ryu Volume 2, was that Ryu just jumped from level 4 to level 6. She completely skipped level 5. That was initially the thought process behind it. I personally felt that she did do something like that, but I thought what had happened was she did level 4 to level 5, and then level 5 she had basically 0 stats and then went to level 6. That's exactly not what happened. I thought that that would be the case, but no, it wasn't that way at all. That is not what Estrella did whatsoever. What Estrella did was something actually a little bit smarter, and this, in my opinion, made a lot of sense. So from level 4 to level 5, she obviously got her the level up. She did the status update. She leveled her up. All well and good. At level 4, to just give you guys an idea, I'm going to take a screenshot of it and put it on your screens right now. These are her stats at level 4 before she leveled up. D587, D501, S935, S954, and S900. Very straightforward, very good stats. Obviously, it's nothing crazy like Belle's, but Belle is an anomaly. Very good stats for a character, you know, that is obviously high level 4. Very, very good stats. These are her stats at level 5. Yep, you're reading that right. She did train a lot and get basically up those stats, basically thanks to, of course, the leftover Exilia and of course the training that she did while she was with Estrella basically and the rest of her familia, in getting those stats high enough before getting those level 6 stats. This is really, really important because everybody thought that she effectively skipped level 5 or went from level 5 to level 6 with basically 0 stats. Not the case whatsoever. At level 5, she's at G288, G201, E494, D507, E457. Not necessarily the same level of stats you'd expect from, let's say, Eyes going from level 5 to level 6. I mean, we've seen Eyes' levels from level 5 to level 6, and those were much, much higher, right? When she was level 5 and she went up to level 6, they were significantly higher. But nonetheless, and this is very important, nonetheless, these are still good enough stats. It's not like she went from level 5 to level 6 at 0 stats. Now, I will say this might be a little bit spoilery, so I will warn you guys. If you guys don't want to check out this section, I would say skip to the timestamp that I've put down below in the comments section or in the description of this video, or there should be like a chapter thing basically, so you guys can skip to the end of this. But I want to dive into Ryu's stats at level 6 and also her skills and magic, and I'm going to be putting up a screenshot of her stats sheet from, of course, episode Ryu volume 2 Familiar Chronicles. So of course, if you guys want to skip that out and, you know, wait until you get the light novel in English, feel free to do so, but we're going to put it up on screen right now. There you guys go. So these are Ryu's this is Ryu's stats sheet for level 6, of course, right? And there's a lot to dissect here. There is a lot to dissect here. So you can see in the top left, you've got her skills, you've got her weapon, you've got the armor, you've got the magic on the bottom right, and of course her status. Let's take a look at the status first and foremost and take a look at that. So of course, the top left is her strength, if I'm not mistaken, that is at I5. Endurance is I0. Her dexterity is I7, or yeah, I7. Her agility is I15 and her magic is I14. So there you guys go. That is her status sheet basically, and that is her stats basically. When it comes to her, additional skills, her development abilities. Hunter G, Mage I, Abnormal Resistance is G, Magic Resistance is I, and she's also got Chain Attack at I. Chain Attack, of course, if you guys don't remember, is basically the power of your attacks that you use continuously, or in a chain basically, gets a boost in power basically. So yeah, Mage of course improves her magic. Magic res is magic resistance, of course, right? Abnormal resistance, of course, allows you to get away with the effects of like poison and stuff like that. And then Hunter improves abilities against monsters Ryu has fought from and gained Exilia from. So there you guys go. Now what I want you guys to look at is the top left. So we already know some of her skills from previous, anime seasons and light novels. Fairy Serenade effectively increases the effects of magic, and it increases the effect especially at night as well. So she already gets a base boost to her magic, but at night it gets even boosted higher. Mind Load basically increases Ryu's strength stat when attacking by using mind. It has an active trigger. Arrow Mana basically increases Ryu's attack power the faster she's running. You get a blue flash around her weapon when she uses it. Now the last skill, that is basically an entire like 5 sections or 6 sections, is something that was actually utilized by a character 7 years ago, RD Varma. This skill is Astrea Varmas. This is a brand new skill that Ryu has gotten at level 5, and it is a passive skill that is always on and grants multiple buffs to people within a certain area around Ryu, including Ryu herself. Those who are in the same familiar will have their skills amplified and their magic stat and mind increased. Anyone with Falna, even an enemy, is granted medium resistance to mental attacks. The amount of improvement and range of the effect are dependent on Ryu's level. This is an insane skill, and if Ryu were to convert to the Hestia Familiar like everybody is hoping she will, remember, I am talking about currently Astrea Familiar Ryu. Of course, Astrea Familiar will benefit from this massively, but I know a lot of people want Ryu to be part of the Hestia Familiar after this season. Well, they've wanted her to be a part of the Hestia Familiar since forever. But say Astrea doesn't come back to Aurario, and let's say, for example, maybe Ryu decides to convert, potentially. I don't know if she will. We'll have to wait and see. I don't think she will personally, but there is a small chance nonetheless that she might because of her love for Bell now.
But if she does convert to the Hestia Familia, this shit is gonna go off with Belle. Like, I mean, this is an insane ability, you know? Having the ability to basically just buff up everybody in the area around Ryu, and especially those in her Familia, add on top of that Harihime's magic and everything, you're gonna see this go insane with Belle. Belle's gonna be just boosted by everybody in the Familia. It's crazy. It's crazy. So keep that in mind. That is a very, very powerful ability that she's got in Estrella Varmas, which is, of course, the last skill in the skill chart in the top left, of course. Now we move on to her magic, which is in the bottom right. It's a very tiny thing in the bottom right, but of course, one of the key things that she's obviously gotten outside of Luminous Wind and Noah Heal, which we already know about, is Estrella Record. Estrella Record basically allows Ryu to use magic from other people who have received Estrella's Falna. Now, of course, the one we saw the most, and the only one we saw in the episode, of course, in episode 12, was Agaris Alvisine, which is Elise's magic, of course, right? Fire enchant magic, which allowed to basically cover Ryu's legs, hands, and the sword with fire, allowing her to basically just pop off effectively. She can't control it as well as Elise just yet, but yes. She's also able to use other magics and abilities from other, you know, Estrella Familia members, like Kaguya. She's able to use Goko, which was able to allow her to create Blades of Light. Rhea Vindemia, which is Maryu's wide area healing magic, which I confused with Noah Heal in the most recent video. I do apologize on that. I did confuse the two. Moose Mine, Lyra's magic that allowed her to create a minefield. Irvute, Rihanna's fire magic, and so on and so forth. She's able to do all of these magics, which is crazy to say the least. Again, I do think that Estrella will, and Ryu specifically, will probably train using that and try and get more of the abilities going and learn more about how to utilize the abilities properly. But that is an insane magic. Like, Ryu has actually gotten an insane set of skills and abilities thanks to, of course, you know, just these level ups. She's probably become the most broken character at this moment in time thanks to her level up. Obviously, I do think that she needs a lot of training and time with them, obviously, right? And not to mention, I still do feel like, obviously, I'm not going to say it's a big negative, but the level stuff at level 5, or the stats at level 5 will hinder her slightly, but I don't think it's going to be as much of a hindrance as I initially thought it was going to be, and as much as I thought other people may have thought it might have been as well. So just keep that in mind. Of course, she also got a brand new weapon, Alps Justicia, made by Cecile, of course, right? It is created using various materials like a branch from the Wish Forest, a tree from the Great Sacred Tree of the Wish Forest, one of the central locations of like elves. Basically, it's one of the key locations. It is where Lafia is from, for example, as well. And along with that, a water from the Star Caverns Holy Spring, Spirit's Drop, fragment of Alps Lumina, one of Ryu's original swords, of course, right, as well. It is insanely well made, and in fact, the estimated cost of the raw materials alone, as it suggests in the second row of the weapon column, 120 million valis. It's absolutely insane. It is absolutely crazy. But yeah, it is also it also features an aspect of being superior, which allows Ryu's magic power to imbue the sword, allowing it to strengthen her attacks, and it also synergizes extremely well, specifically with elven magic. Of course, makes sense because of the branch from the Wish Forest, so it makes a lot of sense. But yes, Ryu is absolutely broken thanks to her level 6 upgrade. Basically, from level 4 to level 5, from level 5 to level 6, she's become absolutely cracked out of her mind. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what I think about this entire situation with Ryu. Do I think it makes sense? Do I think it was done right? Honestly, I do think so. I think the way Omori has executed it and done it, from obviously the whole aspect of, breaking up the level ups from level 4 to level 5 and level 5 to level 6, the reasoning behind it, in my opinion, with the whole factor of 5 years of no level up or no status update and doing crazy batshit stuff, of course, right? And along with the fact that he's given a good explanation as to why other familiars don't do it, I think it's done well. Personally, to me, I have no issues with it whatsoever, especially thanks to the explanations given to us in episode Ryu Familiar Chronicles Volume 2. It makes even more sense to me. I feel like initially anyways, I felt a lot of people overreacted to the whole double level up thing, because there was never a thing of like, it's impossible. Like, for example, the idea of gods having kids and spirits having children, that was always touted to be impossible. And that was clearly told to us that it was impossible, which obviously makes eyes a big question mark, of course, right? But the double level up was never said it was impossible. There was never a thing where it was like, oh, nobody can double level up, it's impossible. It's just been never done before, and nobody's ever attempted it. And the reason why nobody's ever attempted it is because it's such a risky thing to do, and it's very unlikely that a person would be away from their god or goddess for years on end, you know? So it makes a lot of sense in the case of Ryu that it did happen inevitably. And I do think that if other characters were to go through the same thing and have to do the same thing, they would achieve it as well. But the thing is, nobody else has done it, and so it makes sense as to why Ryu was able to do it, because she's the only one who's capable of doing it at the moment in time. And there was obviously good reason as to why it had to be done. So yeah, that's my personal opinion on that one. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I'm curious to see whether or not you guys agree or disagree with you know, the double level up. Let me know your reasoning behind it as well. If you like it, dislike it. I am quite curious to see what you guys have to say down below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully you guys like the format. It's a little bit different to the normal videos I've been doing, and you know, obviously my face isn't in this video, so let me know if you guys prefer this sort of style of video in the comments as well. I would appreciate it. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please be sure to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel for more content, all that sort of good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, take it easy everybody. Bye bye.